And welcome back to Kivumbi 2022 right here on KTN News. It is our election show, and this evening we are focusing on the gender disparity in Kenya's elective positions and leadership roles in general. And we just had that conversation with the Kirinyaga Governor, Honorable Anne Waiguru. And to continue with that, I'm now joined by Priscilla Nyokabi. She is with the Gender and Equality Commissioner there. We also have Annie Reri, who is the Executive Director, FIDA. And also joining us is Honorable Aden Duale, Garissa Town Member of Parliament, also the former Leader of Majority in the National Assembly. I'll begin with you ladies here. Honorable Nyokabi, you've heard what the Governor had to say around this subject tonight. Your reactions on what you heard tonight?
Well, I heard her a lot more on cost, which is actually true, that there is a place for costs. And I'm one of those who are supporting the campaign financing rules and regulations. I still hope that they find the light of day before the next election. But I think the larger question for us is the two-thirds gender debate and how to move forward now from where the BBI has left it. So that's really occupying our minds right now. Is it a court process? Is it the appeal, or is it a parliamentary bill, say like what we had of Duale bills? I'm happy that the former majority leader is on air. I wish he was the one who would have done a Duale 3. But there is no harm. I think that Kemunya should now start the journey again. But those conversations are up in there. So that's the larger debate. You know, the opposite gender rule was in the BBI, where the governor and deputy governor would have to be of opposite gender. In terms of political support, we hadn't gained it for the top, for the president and deputy president. But I think it is important for candidates, presidential candidates in particular, to consider running with members of the opposite gender. And I think that it is going to be very important for IEBC to stand by its word that all the political parties must submit candidates lists that are two-thirds compliant. That is one step. Party tickets are one step. Yeah,
and yet there's that feeling that women want freebies, that all of this legislation is crafted in such a way as to say, this is the weaker gender, let's treat them with kiddie gloves. I wonder whether that settles well with you, and why is it that you have an electorate that is more women, but is unable to turn around as equally many women in leadership positions?
Thank you so much, Sophie. I think for us, even at FIDA, one of the things we are very keen on is shaping the stereotypes that have been in existence. The narratives that have been fronted that tend to perhaps indicate that women want freebies, they don't. And as you heard the governor speak, one of the key drivers or the vehicles that really assures women of political participation are the political parties. So we are very keen to see how gender-friendly are they. When you look at the gender-friendliness, questions such as politically instigated violence against women, especially at primaries, are issues we are concerned about. So I think for us, the message that women are sending across is they are prepared, they are qualified. We have a huge pool of exceptional women, but we need one to have a conducive environment where whether you're a male candidate or a female candidate, the level playing field has been achieved. If you look at instances in our country, Sophia, such as education, access to capital, access to opportunities, women have really played the catch-up. And so even in politics, we are not asking for freebies. We are asking for the country to be sensitive that women, it's only until the 90s that as a woman you could walk into a bank and get credit as a woman. Before that, you'd be asked to perhaps get the consent of your partner or your spouse. So we are asking the country to be cognizant of that catch-up that women have had to do, but then to also indicate that we are not asking for freebies. Women are prepared, women are ready, women run very good campaigns, but sadly get disappointed either by political parties who are not bold enough to call out violence, for example, or even when nominations go wrong, to have a political party dispute resolution mechanisms that women can understand. Right. So it's a level playing field that we really want.
Honorable Duale, let me bring you in. You are privileged to be among women today and be part of this conversation. I wonder for you whether then, having had the driving sat on the driving seat on the especially not more than two-thirds gender rule, do you sit back and in hindsight feel you failed the women of Kenya? Let me just ask it as directly as that.
No, I don't think so. You know, we need to look at this matter of the two-thirds gender principle within the context of the Constitution. And the genesis of the two-thirds gender principle is found and was crafted by the framers of the Constitution 2010 in Article 27, sub-Article 6 and 8, in 81B, and in Article 100 of the Constitution. So it is found in the Constitution. And we have tried, and I'm sure Honorable Nyokabi will agree with me, in the 11th Parliament, Honorable Chepkonga, who was the chair of JLAC, myself, I tried 3 times. Honorable Boss Shelley had a bill. And, you know, we must look at these same articles. It says the state, not parliament, the state shall provide the attainment of the two-thirds gender principle both in elective and appointive positions in our country. And having said that, Parliament in its voting, because we lost all these bills because we couldn't attain the two-thirds threshold, which is 233 members voting for it. And Parliament in its voting procedures has a legislative authority that each and every member of the House will vote for a bill or a motion or for even budgetary allocation based on his conscience and based on his own volition. So nobody can force, I think nobody can dictate to Parliament how they vote. And I want to say that I am one person who believes that women must be given more space in the decision-making table in our country, whether it is a national executive, whether it's Parliament, and whether it's in the judiciary. But again, the same Constitution does not give you those safeguards. It tells the people of Kenya and the people of Garissa Township, where I have been a member of Parliament since 2008, that go to the polls, elect your member of Parliament. Secondly, I heard Honorable Nyokabi saying that it was in the BBI. I mean, the principle, particularly on the governor and the deputy governor coming from 2 different gender, I think that was removed. And I think we don't want to lie to the women of Kenya. That was removed in the draft bill which was passed by Parliament. So, and there's no crisis. I mean, the Chief Justice, using Article 261, subsection 7, gave an advisory opinion to the President to dissolve Parliament. The President had a constitutional duty to do that. He never did it. The President was to comply with that advisory opinion. In fact, the people, the women of Kenya must blame the President. What did the President did? The President allowed both the Attorney General and Parliament to go to court, to High Court. And as we speak today, there is a stay on that order. But more complex things has happened, Wanuna, if you agree with me, with the judgment on BBI by both the High Court and the Court of Appeal. The matter of the two-thirds gender principle now is more complex. Why do I say so? There's something that the courts have introduced called the basic structure. And two-thirds gender principle falls within the reading of the basic structure as defined by the High Court and the Court of Appeal. What does that mean? That matter now can be only addressed through a referendum, where all the 4 stages must be complied with, you know, the bill, the public participation, the civic education, the constituent assemblies, like the one we had in Bomas in 2010, and a referendum. So from where I sit, Parliament is committed, but Parliament, every question that comes to Parliament is put to vote.
All right, Honorable.
And it has got its own parliamentary authority on how each and member.
All right, Honorable Dwala will continue with this conversation. We'll have a news update in just a few moments, but in a minute or so, Honorable Priscilla Nyokabi, react to what he's talking about, that in fact at the end of the day, this has just gotten more complicated owing to some of the developments around BBI?
I personally don't think that that has happened because, you know, the two-thirds rule has already been put in the body of the Constitution. Correct. So it's an implementation framework. And we had long conversations before we settled on the Duale bill around the question of referendum. And it clearly you didn't need a referendum to put what was already in the Constitution because, for example, Article 177 on county assemblies is already quite clear on the formula. And you know, this formula was there. It's just that the negotiation in Naivasha, when the 47 women reps came, then the formula for full top-up was removed from the National Assembly. Right. And so it is possible to still do a parliamentary process because the fundamental principles are there. Article 81 is clear that the electoral process should give you two-thirds. And you know, what the two-thirds top-up does is to admit that the country is not electing women. It is not the first option. The first option is like what FIDA is doing on voter data. We first go to the election, as he says correctly, and you try to vote women. But then, at the table of parliament where decision making is done, if the country and the culture does not allow women to be elected, the answer is not to have women on the table. The answer is then to go to the second best democratic option, which is then to have top-up. So I personally still believe that with sufficient political will, this question must be answered. Otherwise, the next parliament will also be unconstitutional. We are proposing that the answer to this question is found this side of 2022. That whatever election we go to in 2022 must deliver the two-thirds rule. Otherwise, that parliament will also be unconstitutional. And that's why you're hearing this question about, do we go to parliament or do we go to court? But parliament can solve this problem. I don't think that the basic structure doctrine will affect this. And you know, in law, you cannot anticipate a judgment. So we have to do this and then...
Based on where we are at now.
We will go and ask the judges then if the basic structure has been touched. But I personally don't think it will be touched because the basic structure issues are already in the same constitution.
In the same constitution. Stay with me. Reri will be coming to you because we have a full hour for analysis, conversation, discourse on this subject after we get our top stories from Akisa, who's standing by with that in just a few moments. And also later on, some more data on just the lay of the land, if you like, of the state of this gender parity conversation and the disparity that currently exists and what needs to happen to cure that is what my guests will be weighing in on. So Akisa is coming up after these few messages.